One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet who millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Wednesday evening edition of Fanfare with Barry Cunningham. And if you don't know, that's who I am. I'm Barry Cunningham. So we've had an eventful last couple of shows. The show last night about real estate freaked people out, drove people crazy. And then the show this afternoon freaked people out and drove people crazy. And this one tonight should be redeeming. People will feel, okay, Barry wasn't going off his rocker, just was looking at some things. Tonight's show is different. Tonight I'm going to tell you about the Autopen scandal and the update that's going around about the Autopen scandal. And this one might be a little bit tough for the Democrats to wiggle out of. I think President Trump's got the goods on these people, and I think the hammer is going to actually hit. Of course, it's not up to him. Of course, it's going to be in the hands of Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino. And luckily, also this time, it's going to be in the hands of Judge Jeanine Pirro, as she is now the newly confirmed, or not confirmed, sworn in interim U.S. Attorney for the D.C. District. So that's a good thing. She's not going to take any, she's not going to give these people any cover. So we shall see how this plays out. Also tonight, Kash Patel appeared on Brett Baer's show, and he did an interview. So I'm going to play it. I'm going to keep my comments to myself, except for like midway through, we'll jump in and say, hey, what do you guys think so far? If you haven't seen it, settle in. It's about a 23 minute interview, and we can talk about that. Then we'll jump over to Rumble, and I've got Ben from the Veteran Biker coming on, and he and I are going to shoot the poop for a while and talk about some things. One of the things I want to talk about is specifically what you're going to see at the end of this pardon video. I may even have to replay that section because there's something that I can talk about, but I can't talk about it here. So let's dig into that. Without further ado, let's get into the opening of the show. But before I do that, to make sure I'm doing things the right way and not getting any of my obligations mixed up. Let me go ahead and tell you guys about the MAGA offer. The MAGA offer is the Trump sneaker. If any of you guys are looking to get something stylish and understand what you mean, you know, sometimes you see something and you think, okay, I need these in my life like yesterday. That was me when I first came across these Trump Never Surrender gold sneakers. Got some in my size. These aren't just shoes, they're a full-on statement. Bold, fearless, and unapologetically patriotic. I mean, just look at them. The gold finish, the red and white blue accents. It's like wearing a piece of American pride right on your feet. And let me tell you, they don't just look good, they feel good. The quality is legit, comfortable, durable, and surprisingly lightweight. These kicks aren't sitting in the back of your closet gathering dust. You'll actually want to wear them and show them off and maybe even start a few conversations. What I love most is the message that they send. The message being never surrender. It's not just a slogan, it's a mindset. Whether you're out making moves or just walking into the weekend, these sneakers are a reminder to stand strong and never back down. They've also become a favorite gift. I mean, we all know someone who would love these big Trump supporter collector, whether or not they're a big Trump supporter or collector, or just someone who rocks bold style. They even have them in my size 16. So anybody can get a pair of these basically. Maybe not Shaquille O'Neal. And here's the best part. Each pair is a part of a limited run, so you're not getting some mass-produced junk. These are numbered, exclusive, and designed to make a statement. Mine, 16, size 16. But I'm not sure how cool is that? And I don't know how long this is going to last. If this sounds like your vibe, or if you've already picturing someone you know in your life who'd like to flip for these, go check them out. Today, Fanfare audience only gets a special discount at the MAGAoffers.com/Barry. The MAGAoffers.com/Barry. Again, that's the MAGAoffers.com/Barry. I'll spell it out for you. THEMAGAOFFERS.com/Barry. Use that link to grab your pair now and take up to 15% off your order. Not a bad deal. Look at these suckers. They look pretty cool. Yeah. Be careful. Understand, don't wait long. These sneakers are going very fast. Own a piece of the movement and step into something legendary. All right, that being said, let's go and get into today's show. So the Autopen stuff. Got some stuff for you to look at. And this is from earlier today on Harris Faulkner.
If you look at what Joe Biden did at the end of his presidency, he was more active in the last 90 days than he was the first 3.5 years. They signed a lot of executive orders. They issued a lot of pardons, and almost all of these were signed with the Autopen. We want to know who was in control of the Autopen and what authority they had to use the Autopen in the president's name.
House Oversight Chairman James Comer there, and Republicans now are zeroing in on former President Biden's use of an Autopen to sign official documents during his term. It's all part of the investigation into an apparent cover-up of Biden's health decline. The House Oversight Committee is pushing to question the doctor for Joe Biden and several key staffers. They may all face subpoenas if they do not comply by tomorrow. So now there's a deadline to this. So there's a ramp up now by Republicans. In a social media post, President Trump wrote, "Whoever had control of the Autopen is looking to be a bigger and bigger scandal by the moment." Aisha Hasni reporting in Washington. Aisha.
Hey, good morning to you, Harris. So that's right. Oversight Committee Chairman Comer tells me that his committee is ready to drop those subpoenas within minutes if former President Biden's doctor and those 4 other staffers do not respond to his request for an interview by tomorrow's deadline. Comer is also telling me that he's willing to expand those summons to include former First Lady Jill Biden, their son Hunter Biden, and former Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, if that is where the committee's investigation leads them.
Obviously, we're interested in the Jean-Pierre. We're interested in people like Ian Sams. We're also interested in Jill Biden and Hunter Biden. So, but first step is bring these lower level employees in. We believe these employees that most people have never heard of had a huge amount of influence in the use of the Autopen.
So several folks from Biden's Oval Office inner circle have stayed quiet amid the cover-up allegations, but they're still active out there. Ron Klain is now Airbnb's chief legal officer. Anita Dunn now works with the super PAC Future Forward. Mike Donnellan is a Harvard fellow, and Bob Bauer teaches at NYU Law. And we're told that don't rule these people out as well. They could also be interviewed. If the committee does find any wrongdoing in their investigation, Harris, and Chairman Comer says that he would send criminal referrals to AG Pam Bondi. So stay tuned.
All right, so before we get back to that, so now you understand why it's back to Pam Bondi. Even though the Congress goes ahead and does their meetings and their hearings, I mean, they do that round-robin 5-minute crap that means absolutely nothing, they better have their game ready to go. Now, this interesting part of this whole thing is they're asking them, will you come in? Meaning, will you just come on in out of your own goodwill and open up for a, little investigation? Nobody in their right mind is going to do that. And their attorneys are going to probably tell them, don't even think about that. And so at that point, they are going to have to subpoena everybody. And if they have to subpoena everybody, then it's going to get really squirrely, because I hope they put these people under oath. That's the big thing. The other thing I wanted you to take notice of that is you notice all these people, after they left the Biden White House, all got cushy corporate jobs, high-level corporate jobs. How in the hell is this guy chairman or whatever for Airbnb? How is this woman, all of a sudden with a mega... It doesn't make any sense. The incestuous nature of what goes on behind the scenes is sickening. They just step out of the White House and then immediately get some 7-figure cush job that they obviously use their influence to get those jobs to be taken care of. So now you know what the grounds rules are. Tomorrow they have to respond by a certain time. I haven't heard what the sign is yet. And so as they find out what time that sign, or what time they have to respond by, then once they don't respond, then they have to decide whether or not they're going to issue subpoenas. I hope he's got the subpoenas on his desk ready to go. And if he doesn't have that, then all of this is for naught. So let's continue with this.
Yeah, I agree. It's being done out in the open. It's being done in the light of day. We're not doing it at the 11th hour here, or as we're on our way up to the Capitol to see the next president being sworn in. And I might add, I don't think there's any doubt who's actually signing these pardons. At the end of Biden's term, we had thousands of people that were pardoned or offered some kind of clemency for drug offenses. I have my doubts about whether Joe Biden signed all of those. And there's obviously, because of the new books that are out, clear reporting here that there was something of a Politburo running the White House at the end of the Biden administration when many of the most controversial pardons were issued. So in this case, Donald Trump, I think, is fully owning all of these decisions. This is the financial.
All right, so understand what Scott just said. And by the way, if you haven't seen my interview yet with Scott Jennings, go ahead. It's posted on the video side, not on the live. Oh, it's actually on the live site too, but it's easier to get to by looking at the video site. Scott just said something very, very important. He's talking about the sheer number of pardons. Remember, there's something like 2,500 pardons that Biden supposedly signed in his last waning days, which, given his schedule and 2,500 signatures, it's probably not even humanly possible that he did those. It's even probably less possible that he knew what the hell he was signing.
Of the future, Jesse, and we have to encourage it. What the Biden administration was doing, and let's face it, it wasn't Biden. Elizabeth Warren controlled the Autopen during that administration. She, for some reason, has this pathological hatred of the crypto community. She wants to drive this community offshore. She doesn't want it happening in the United States. That's the wrong policy for the United States. We want all the innovation happening here. This is a financial system of the future. It's cheaper. It's more efficient. We want it happening here, Jesse, and I think people are thrilled that President Trump is making that possible.
The Democrats.
So that's an absolutely huge allegation. And I don't know if he was doing a wink wink out the side of his eye, but he's actually telling people that Elizabeth Warren may have been part of the Autopen stuff. Now think about that. What was the Autopen? What was the office? What did it look like? Did anybody who had, the wink from Jill Biden or Hunter or whoever just walk in and just do it? If he said that, pretty much he was told it's okay to say that about Elizabeth Warren. He works for the president. So I'm starting to envision something where if you needed something signed, whoever it was that gave the wink wink, you just went in there and had it signed on your own. Just imagine that. There's people like Elizabeth Warren and these other 4 or 5 people or 6 people who are just getting things signed whenever they want to. That's kind of scary. Real scary.
Was the most compromised, most complicit, most compliant, most corrupt, and most mentally absent candidate they could, with the intent of doing as much damage as they could in the allotted amount of time. Unfortunately for them, the American people didn't give them any more time. But I think that every single law, every single executive order, every single judicial nomination, every single pardon that was signed on behalf of Joe Biden with an Autopen needs to be fully examined, challenged by this Department of Justice, and maybe ultimately null and void, because this entire presidency and the Autopen is the biggest scandal in American history.
I agree.
Nothing's close.
Nothing's close. Watergate compels in comparison.
The people that were in charge.
It's such a huge scandal that at this point the Democrats don't want to touch it. And as you start drilling down into some of this stuff, it starts becoming very scary. Because from what I understand and what I've been able to glean, and I asked you to go ahead and do your own research, is how many people had to approve the use of the Autopen. I have heard as many as 5 people have to okay it. So if 5 people have to okay something for the Autopen to be used, that means it's at least 5 people who knew what was going on. It's a sixth person if it's someone else who wants to have something signed. So it appears as though this country was run by committee, not even by the President of the United States. Let that sink in.
Were Mike Donilon, Steve Ricchetti, Bruce Reed, Anthony Bernal, the First Lady's chief of staff, the First Lady, and Annie Tomasini. Those were the people that saw him the most and that had the most control over what he was doing and his day-to-day.
Well, clearly, Congressman, he is naming names. And we have the Washington Post columnist, Sally Quinn, accusing former First Lady of elder abuse. What do you say to that, Congressman? Elder abuse.
It is elder abuse. It is. There's no doubt about that. And all of these officials that were in the Biden White House, as far as I'm concerned, they need to come in front of the Oversight Committee because questions need to be answered. Last thing I will say on this.
If you're like me, go ahead and raise your hand wherever you're sitting and saying, I'm tired of committees. I'm tired of seeing these dog and pony shows where you get 5 minutes, you reclaim your time, and you scream at somebody. There's nothing there that shows me what I need to know in terms of what these people are doing. So if it's not the Oversight Committee and people reclaiming their time, then we are relying on the Department of Justice. Here it is, May 28th. We got 3 days left in May, and it'll be June, the 6th month of the year. How much more does Pam Bondi need to act? If all of this stuff is bubbling up, you have to wonder. And I'm not going to get into the conversation of do you not trust her and all this stuff. I'm just saying it doesn't really matter at this point. I don't care. I don't care. You've got so many different things happening, and nothing seems to be moving forward publicly with any of it. Not any of them. Pick one. Pick one and start making examples of people. At this point, even if the judges get in and try to throw something out, Gitmo, military tribunals, do something. Please do something.
Is depending on when the president truly was not in control of his mental faculties, a lot of the stuff that he did as president, in my view, should be invalidated. And the reason why is because you can't use an Autopen to run the country. It has to be from the mental capabilities and the physical capabilities of the person elected to be commander-in-chief. And so if Joe Biden could not execute the duties of his office, then why are we living under a lot of the decisions that was made by the Biden White House? So there's a lot.
I love me some Byron Donalds. I absolutely love Byron. But maybe, perhaps the question is, you need to answer. Let the other guy ask that question. Why is it that this was allowed to happen? And why is it that nothing yet has been done about it? I can't answer that. Obviously, Byron can answer that. Somebody has to answer to that, I would think. I think you'd want to see that.
A lot of investigations that need to occur on this matter. This is a major scandal, in my view, the biggest one in presidential history. We can now put Watergate to bed because the Autopen is now in front of us.
And clearly they were lying to us. Listen, I think the American people deserve to know exactly what was happening, who's calling the shots, who's using the Autopen. Right now, we've invited 28 former administration officials, people that should have had, if not daily, but very frequent access to President Biden. That list may expand as news reports indicate other people might have been quite influential as well. So again, we're inviting them at this point in time. I think it'll be.
I don't want people invited. I'm not looking to bring people into a little cocktail party. These people should be dragged in. Why aren't we being forceful? Why aren't we seeing the 5 a.m. no-knock warrant? Just kick in the door and say, you need to come out here. I think Roger Stone could tell you about that. I'm pretty sure that President Trump can tell you about that. Why is it that we're not seeing the same exact aggressive tactics to bring people to justice as Paul Manafort got? Everybody else, Steve Bannon. What is going on? Hey, we're going to invite them to come. Well, what happens if they decline your invitation? I don't feel like it. Because now then you're going to have to escalate to a subpoena. So why not just go straight to a subpoena? What the hell's with the invitation? Why do you guys think you're scamming us? You don't think we can see all this dog and pony shit that's going on? Especially from somebody like Ron Johnson, who's like, I am not voting for this bill. Okay, so we know where you stand, but how much of a stand are you going to put forward into actually doing something? Don't invite people. Call the marshals or the sheriff and go pick them up. Show them you mean business. When I saw this and I was putting this together this afternoon, I'm like, well, this sounds nice. You're going to invite them. Hopefully they'll take the invitation. If not, then we'll talk about, going and picking them up or subpoena. And then what you're going to see, which I hate it, you're going to have 5 minutes of Jasmine Crockett talking crazy and 5 minutes of AOC talking crazy. And then you'll have a Republican trying to rebut what it's a dog and pony show. Get it right to the people who can do the right kind of interrogation. You can't do an interrogation when you got 5 minutes on, 5 minutes off. The interrogation these people need is to turn these people into pretzels. Make them play Twister in front of you. So last Tuesday you did this, but then on Wednesday turn them inside out into a pretzel. Things are moving way too slow. Way too slow. And so when I get ready to play the interview from Kash Patel, I've got some questions for you. And I wrote the questions on the lower third, but you'll see what those questions are. And one, I guess I can tell you is it going to satisfy you? But I can't ask you right now because you haven't heard it. Let's continue with this.
A relatively short list of questions that we're going to be asking them initially, but it depends on what we hear from people, see what kind of contradictions there are. It's illegal to lie before Congress, and so hopefully we'll actually get the truth out of these individuals.
Senator.
Well, okay, so it's illegal to lie before Congress, but then what do you do when they lie? Well, at that point, we're going to have to call the Department of Justice and refer them for criminal prosecution. Can we just skip all the BS? Can we skip all the, the fake things where they're going to lie to you? How about we just go to the prosecutorial process? Let them have their day in court. Let them do the full investigation and have a deposition in front of a lawyer where someone's not interrupting every 5 minutes for television purposes. I gotta believe something big is coming. There's no logical explanation for this. You guys all believe it. You guys, especially all of us who believed in Bongino, who believe in Kash Patel, believe in Pam Bondi, and of course believe in Trump. There's no way any of you are sitting back going, no, it's time. No more excuses. Doesn't really matter. It's time. Somebody has to get picked up. Period. And I'm not even talking about the Epstein stuff. No, this is, you got some stuff here that's got blood running all around the plate. This is the stuff that you guys can really make your names on. It's bigger than Watergate. And they're all sitting right there. It's not like you have to go dig them up. You know where every single one of these people are. You already know what the law is regarding an Autopen. You already have the proof that the Autopen was used. What in the hell are you having congressional hearings about? This is a crime right in front of your eyes. Doesn't make any sense to me. That's why I get frustrated.
Where does the former First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, fall into all of this?
Well, I don't believe we've put her on the list yet. Again, we're going to be talking about the governmental officials, those folks first.
I don't believe we put her on the list yet. Why the hell not? What exactly are you waiting for? You see what I mean? As these people spew stuff out of their mouth, you're like, oh no, we didn't put her on the list yet. We might. We're not really sure.
But again, this is a voluntary ask right now. Hopefully we won't have to subpoena anybody, but we may take it to that level if we have to.
Yes, nice to meet you. Yeah.
All right. So this is something that I wasn't sure I could play with these guys, so I'm going to have to be very careful. But as you can see in the red, I don't know how James O'Keefe got this, but he's got a undercover video of David Hogg, who they just screwed over, and they brought him, they made him the vice chairman of the DNC. Now they're kicking him out, or they're in the process of kicking him out. And again, let me just tell you, guys, if you've been sitting around and not doing what you're supposed to be doing, either at work or with your wife or something, and some hottie comes up to you all of a sudden, I mean, just smoking hot, and she's like, would you like to have a drink? Run. These people just keep getting sucked in. Oh my goodness, they get sucked in. Whether the person's gay or whether they're straight, some hottie, male hottie, female hottie walks up. How you doing? Hey, hi. Okay, hi. So where do you work? And I'm thinking to myself, dude, if you ain't never been with a beautiful woman and all of a sudden a beautiful woman shows up, it's probably not what you think it is. And I can't even imagine saying that about, guys, because I don't swing that way. But same thing. If you're, just hanging out and you've never had this, hunk of a hunk show up and all of a sudden y'all got hit it off, you might want to double think why they're there. You ain't got it like that. And all of a sudden this hot woman or a hot guy shows up and blah, you throw everything. Well, I don't know how they catch these people, but they get them. and they vomit at the mouth. So let's listen to what David Hogg had to say.
Off the record, of course. Foundational question for me is how corrupt is the DNC if so many people knew, or few people knew about Biden, the president of the United States?
I mean, I think the fact of the matter is the DNC is always going to be a campaign arm of the president, ultimately. The bigger issue was the inner circle that was around Biden. That's it.
And I can't stress to you enough.
Joe Biden's chief of staff, had an enormous amount of power.
Joe Biden?
Joe Biden's chief of staff.
That was an open secret at that point. I would avoid him. He was scary.
What was his name?
Anthony Bernal.
I've never seen him.
Exactly.
What do you mean?
He's just he's a shadowy, Wizard of Oz type figure. That's what made him so and I knew how he looked, but the general public wouldn't know how this man looked. But he wielded
an enormous amount of power, and I can't stress to you how much power he had at the White House.
So obviously James O'Keefe, he gets these videos and he teases what's coming up. Some don't do anything, some fall flat on their face. This one's very timely. It's happening just as all this stuff is happening. Very interesting. So now we're starting to see faces and names. Let me show you this tweet here right quick. This is from Amuse. I follow Amuse. A cover-up. 3 of President Biden's top aides, Deputy Chief of Staff Anthony Bernal, Deputy Chief of Staff Annie Tomasini, and Senior Advisor Ashley Williams have until tomorrow to agree to testify about their knowledge of the Autopen and who is actually running the government. If they refuse, Republicans on the House Oversight Committee will issue subpoenas for their conspirators. So this stuff, here are the 3 people so you can see them. Doji said, the Biden administration's Autopen scandal reeks of bureaucratic rot. If unelected aides were rubber stamping pardons and executive actions without Biden's direct authorization, it's a constitutional crisis. No, it's a crime. The Oversight Committee subpoenas for Bernal, Tomasini, and Williams are critical. Taxpayers deserve answers on who is really running the House. Biden's cognitive decline, now confirmed by his cancer diagnosis timeline, raises serious questions about whether radical staffers exploited his frailty to push their agenda. Duh, of course they did. This isn't just about signatures, it's about shadow governance. Comer's right to demand accountability, blanket pardons for Hunter, Fauci, and January 6th committee members stink of self-dealing. The same D.C. swamp that blocked oversight last year is scrambling to hide the truth. Time to expose who hijacked the presidency. This is starting to go way far. Let me see what this says. All right, so tonight, and this happened about 7:30, half an hour ago, Dan Bongino announces that Trump's FBI is doing a full-scale investigation into the origins of the thing involving multiple field offices. Fauci's cover-up is about to be exposed, and when he lies in front of Congress about it, he should be charged with perjury. So something is happening. We don't know what, but they may have figured out at this point that the pardons issued to Fauci are no good. Because otherwise, if you take it back a step, if the pardons are good, then the investigation has no place to go. It's over. You can't charge him. So the fact that, I don't know if Dan said it or not. Yeah, Dan. Okay, so the fact that Dan Bongino announced that the FBI is actually doing a full-scale investigation, then that means they are already proceeding with the perspective of the pardons mean nothing. You wouldn't go ahead and do an investigation if the person you're trying to investigate is immune. Funny. No play on words there, immune. But that should be interesting. Would you think so? that phone's ringing again. That would happen? That's kind of crazy. All right, so I want to show you a couple of things that happened tonight that are kind of weird as well. And I think are going to begin showing where the Trump administration is going to go. You get this. This was at 6:46. The U.S. will begin revoking visas of Chinese students, including those with connections to the CCP or studying in critical fields. And Laura Loomer says, let's go. Deport Xi Jinping's daughter. She lives in Massachusetts and went to, oh my God, I can't believe it, sarcasm, Harvard. Sources tell me the PLA guards from the CCC provide her with private security on U.S. soil right in Massachusetts. And Brendan Dilley goes, there goes half the student body of UCLA, Stanford, and USC. So things are beginning to happen. And as we've said, but not the things you want to see happen. Other things are indeed happening. Now, this one here. Okay, before I get there, I want to tell you about this one. This happened at 7:30 7:06 p.m., just before we went on, President Trump has rejected CBS $15 million settlement offer for editing the Kamala Harris 60 Minutes interview. Trump is instead seeking $20 billion from the fake news outlet. Keep pushing President Trump, expose and bankrupt these corrupt losers. $20 billion. Essentially, he wants to put CBS out of business. He rejected $15 million. Nope, not going to do it. Pay me. A lot of stuff happening. A lot of stuff happening just tonight since the last time we talked. How about this one? This one happened at early in the afternoon, but I didn't have a chance to talk to you about it. Check this out.
Our great new CFO went through the 24 and 25 budgets of the Kennedy Center and found $26 million in phantom revenue, fake revenue. It's criminal. We're going to refer this.
Okay, this is obviously, I don't know if you know, this is Rick Grinnell. Rick Grinnell has now been put in charge of the Kennedy Center in New York. And it says Rick Grinnell reveals that they have discovered $26 million in fake revenue. How do you make fake revenue? You either sold tickets or sponsorships or drinks and parking. How did you make fake revenue? And how did you pay your fake bills? They created $26 million in revenue. There aren't enough handcuffs to go around Washington right now.
To the U.S. Attorney's Office here. We're lucky enough to have the Attorney General on the board of the Kennedy Center who heard all the details today. She heard the details. And this is unacceptable in America, to have a fake revenue of $26 million fraud on previous donors. It's
everywhere you turn in the Biden administration, and I misspeak, not just the Biden administration, because we don't know how long this stuff has been going on. So everywhere you turn in government is filled with snakes and rats and scumbags and thieves all throughout the entire government. Everybody, I don't even know how you make $26 million in fake revenue, and why you would make $26 million in fake revenue, and how would you spend $26 million in fake revenue? But something is coming. It has to. I'm telling you right now, at 8:09 on May 28th, if President Trump does not pull the trigger and go complete Andrew Jackson, go completely push all the chips in and take the shots, not literally, whatever comes may come. If he does not do that, we are toast. This will help you believe that, what I'm going to show you right now. This is SV sent this to me. This is the most idiotic, most insane. It has now gone to the top of the list of insanity. Listen to this. Look at this. Breaking. And this was as of, let's see what time, 7:23, just before we went on air. A federal court now says that President Trump cannot use emergency powers to set tariffs. A federal court just ruled that Trump does not have the authority to impose global tariffs under economic emergency law. That decision hits the core legal tool behind the administration's trade moves. It could grind the current tariff strategy to a halt. The case was heard by the U.S. Court of, quote, international trade and challenges Trump's use of sweeping powers to reshape global trade. No word yet on appeal, but the ruling marks a major check on executive power in the middle of an ongoing trade standoff. If now isn't the time to go nuclear on these people, it's not happening. It just keeps happening. And now some district judge somewhere in the country has decided that you can't do tariffs. You cannot use what he's been using, the economic emergency law. Economic emergency law you can't use. You cannot use laws. You can't use Alien Enemies Act. You can't use laws that are on the book. You can't do it. I say you are no longer to use law. I've had it. Me personally, where is it? Where's my things here? I'm actually going to go ahead and buy as much gold as I possibly can. I'm going to buy as well, probably more gold than silver. I'm not even, this isn't even what I'm doing right now in terms of bringing up anything at promotion with Lear Capital. I know right now where this is going. Maybe this is where Ron DeSantis knew things were going. If you are not prepared for what looks like is going to have to happen, not might, but might surely have to happen. These judges have decided they are going to go all in to stop this president. They're going to do everything they possibly can to stop President Trump. They are completely on the other side. He has no choice at this point. He's got to ignore them. In fact, I say beyond ignore them, I think President Trump has to go round them up. These people are exposing themselves as complete, utter morons. It must piss you off when you're seeing this. Because I have a hard time even reading it going, what? A judge has decided you can't institute tariffs? What do you think the other countries are going to think now? Oh, Trump can't do nothing. He can't. The court said he can't do it. We can say what we want. Now you're going to have problems at the port. Imagine this. Other countries hear this crap and say, go ahead, ship it all to the United States. He can't stop us. And then so now you're going to put pressure on the maritime community to stop these ships and not anything get offloaded. Then they're going to run to court and say you can't embargo the goods and you got to let them in. The entirety of our legal system, it seems at this point, is to protect other people. Help those other countries. You can't stop. You can't stop funding everybody else. What are you, crazy? We don't give a crap about you Americans. It's beyond the point now where, ring the bell. It's a veritable emergency. Let me see what you guys got. Yeah, it's judicial tyranny. Well, we keep hearing it. It's got to happen. Then we don't have a president. Exactly. They are all working together to subvert America. So I firmly believe at this point something is coming. Something big is coming. And the reason why I believe that is because it has to. You tell me how we get out of this. How do we go into another election? How do we do anything with all of this insanity? Now, Ben's going to be coming on at 8:30, but I'm going to have to push Ben. I don't know if he's in here yet. Is he in our digital green room? No, he's not here yet. So what I'm going to do is we'll come back and talk about some of this stuff probably on the other side of Rumble because I got a lot more. But I got to play the interview with Kash Patel. So let's get to that. I don't want to hold Ben here all night. That would not be fair to him. And some of you guys have been waiting. So let's listen to this.
Joined by FBI Director Kash Patel. Thanks so much for the time.
Welcome to Quantico, Brett.
This hasn't been on TV, this kind of behind the scenes. This is where an FBI agent or analyst starts their journey, right?
Absolutely. The first grade facility.
I just want to set this up. As you can see, I say, as you watch this interview, I want you to ask yourself, truly ask yourself, if what he says satisfies your questions, concerns, doubts. Go ahead and listen to this. Hey, Ben, how you doing, bro? Hold on, let me Ben's in there walking around and stuff. Ben, can you hear me? Hold on, let me bring Ben on for a second because I got to talk to him and let him know. Ben. Paging Ben. He doesn't have his ears in yet. But anyway, okay, there he goes. Hey, Ben, can you hear me?
Let me go to a little bit of audio. Here we go.
Ben.
There we go. Roadcaster Duo, main speaker. I can see you. I can't hear shit.
Well, hey.
Now I can hear you.
All right.
I can hear you.
I got to get in this Kash Patel interview.
No worries.
It's about 19 minutes. You okay with that?
I am at the beck and call of the Godfather, Barry Cunningham.
All right, so let me run this interview, and then we'll do the Rumble jump over by the time this thing is over, or we can start but let me get this in before everybody jumps. Thank you for your time.
I'm gonna go grab a cup of coffee or something.
Bro, do that for sure.
You're the best. I don't care what Nez says about you.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and get this interview in right now.
Is that we are trying to dedicate to the men and women who want to join the FBI, need some upgrading, as well as the standards that we need them to meet the violent crime. And all of that is engineered right here in Quantico, Virginia. And we're thrilled that you're coming here for a behind the scenes.
Yeah. So applications to be an FBI agent, back in March, it was about 5,600. The last time the Bureau saw monthly figures like this was back in April 2016. But you're seeing big numbers.
We're seeing huge numbers, and I think that's in large part to the administration's response on which way the FBI wants to go. Last year alone, the average for per month application was about 2,500 applicants per month. The first 2 full months of applicants we've had since I've been in the seat, we're at 5,700 applicants a month. So that shows me there's an excitement for the American citizen to join the Bureau.
All right, so let's talk about some of the things that you're doing. You're doing a lot of things all at once. One of the operations is on fentanyl, Operation Raptor. It's really across 4 continents, but you not only the fentanyl, but also the precursors to fentanyl from China.
Brett, almost no one's talking about it. Fentanyl is a synthesized manufactured drug. You don't clip it from a tree. And if you want to choke off the amount of fentanyl that's pouring into America, that's killing an American citizen almost every 7 minutes, you got to go to the source. So one of the first things I did when I became the director of the FBI, I said, we're going to mainland China. We're hitting up the fentanyl precursor laboratories and the banks that are moving the money and the transshipment routes. We started that over almost 90 days ago. We're going to suffocate the snake. We're going to cut off its head. We're going to use our interagency partners at Treasury for sanctions, at State Department for diplomatic negotiations. But the simple fact is the Chinese and the CCP have gotten smart. They said, okay, we're going to stop sending fentanyl precursors directly to Mexico because you've done such a good job at suffocating the southern border. We're going to send them elsewhere through other agencies, through other countries, and we are attacking those points to choke off the fentanyl precursor distribution. No one has done that before. To date, this year, we have seized 1,000 kilograms of fentanyl in the United States of America. That's 480 million lethal doses. That's enough to kill everyone in America and Canada combined. And that's just in these 3 months.
You know, you coming in, before you got this job, were obviously a critic of the FBI, how it was being operated. Now, after being on the job, for as long as you've been on the job, what about the FBI did you get wrong before becoming director? Like, did you have some preconceived notion that turned out to be wrong about the Bureau?
I think what I was a critic of was the leadership, people who sat in this seat before me and people who were the deputies and the very senior portions of the Bureau who manipulated and weaponized the Bureau. I was a fierce critic of it because I led the Russiagate investigation and I proved that my predecessors went to a federal court and lied to them just to weaponize the FBI and the DOJ. That is 100% true. I think one of the things that surprised me the most, and pleasantly so, was that the amount of men and women at the FBI that hated that they did that to the Bureau. And that when I got in the seat, when Dan Bongino got in the seat, they said, we want to fix this place. We want to work with you. We've been trying to do it for years. We've been trying to increase training. We weren't able to. We've been trying to take the technological advancements around the world and import them into the FBI. That hasn't been done. And so we've just seen a void in terms of long-range planning at the FBI that all the men and women at the FBI wanted to do, and their leadership wouldn't let them.
You know, you were on with Maria a few weeks ago, and you said this.
What we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. You're about to see a wave of transparency.
What do you mean?
Just give us about a week or two.
All right, we're almost at 2 weeks. So this is about Crossfire Hurricane. You just talked about that, all that you've been learning. Can you give us a little of that wave of transparency?
Absolutely. So just quickly on Crossfire Hurricane, that is a continuing production. We have found material, and I'm the Crossfire Hurricane guy, that I didn't even know existed in FBI holdings.
So there's been held someplace else? Or
that's been stashed away in locations that people thought we wouldn't find it because we wouldn't know to look for it there. And as promised with my congressional partners, I'm working with Congress on constitutional oversight because that's what the American people deserve. And those documentations have been flowing to Congress nonstop on a rolling basis since that interview. But more importantly, people have had questions about January 6th and whether or not there were FBI sources, not agents, sources on the ground during January 6th. And I told you I would get you the definitive answer to that, and we have. And we are in the process, again, of working with our partners to divulge that information, and it is coming. And I will tell you this. The answer to that question will surprise and shock people because of what past FBI leaders have said about it.
Former FBI Director Chris Wray eventually admitted to Congress there were 26 FBI confidential human sources in and around the Capitol January 6th, but not actual agents. Can you say that's true? Are there more than that? What you're learning from that?
I can say that that is definitely a piece of the truth. Why it took a ton of time for and questioning in Congress for the director to get that point is what I'm trying to eliminate from the FBI. If Congress asks you a question under oath, whether or not there were sources in and around January 6th at the Capitol, you as the director of the FBI need to know that and not deflect and give a DC answer. You have to be prepared for that, and that's the answer we're giving. That's the answer Chris Wray should have given.
And eventually everybody's going to know the whole picture.
Yeah, because the American people deserve that. And look, no one's more frustrated than me. Remember, I was Chief of Staff of the Department of Defense on January 6th. We said that we were ready, and the President had previously authorized the National Guard to be there days in advance. I spent 2 years, a small fortune, grand juries to testify to the truth. And what happens now, years later? We were right. Bowser and Pelosi rejected that offer. And instead of figuring out how to prevent security lapses like that ever again, the American public spent tens of millions of dollars and countless hours on TV listening to conspiracy theories because those in positions of leadership failed to tell the American public the truth.
But there is a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
There are.
The Epstein thing, you dealt with Maria, you said, as far as you know, he killed himself.
I'm telling you, he killed himself.
The other thing on the internet is the Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it. So on the Epstein matter or any other matters, we are diligently working on that, and it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up to get the American people what they deserve. And that's what I'm going to give them on everything.
Yeah. And if somebody says, how long is that going to take? You know, we always see investigations in Washington that end up in blue ribbon commissions, and it doesn't seem like anything comes from it. Do you think actual prosecutions will come from some of this stuff?
I think from some of this stuff, when we go back and look at things like the pipe bomber case, the cocaine in the White House, January 6th, and Crossfire Hurricane, the prosecutorial decisions will lay at the Department of Justice, but we are rigorously investigating them, and I think we've developed some great leads. And I also think we're not going to wait for any blue ribbon commissions. That's up to Congress. If they want to do that, that's totally fine. They're a coordinate branch of government. But we've got answers coming on all these matters.
You promise?
I do.
Your deputy, before he became deputy, said this.
Like many people, I believe the FBI knows the identity of this pipe bomber on January 6th, 4 years ago, and just doesn't want to tell us because it was an inside job.
Why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? You know, they know who the pipe bomber is. The FBI knows who it is.
Does the FBI know who it is?
The FBI, under me and Dan Bongino's leadership, has reestablished that investigations of great public importance that almost blew up the DNC and RNC in Washington, D.C., an area in which then Vice President Harris was in the vicinity of, is something that needs to be answered. And we learned that FBI leadership in the prior administration slow-rolled and basically shut that investigation off. So we turned it on. And we have some great leads, and Dan is actually going to talk about that when he does Fox and Friends tomorrow.
Okay. You don't want to give us a little something?
I can't get ahead of everybody.
All right. What did you make of your predecessor's walk on the beach with the shells 8647?
You know, the FBI is bigger than any leader it's ever had or ever will have. And James Comey is a private citizen, and he can walk around the beach and talk about seashells and Crayola crayons for all I care about, and talk about how we're the conspiracy theorists. But I just remind the American people of one thing. When that man was a leader of the FBI, he perpetrated the largest criminal conspiracy, packaged political information from overseas, took it to a federal FISA court, and illegally surveilled a political opponent. So I won't be lectured on how to run this FBI from that man.
Well, James Comey was just on talking about all of that, the seashells and everything, and he also talked about you.
Obviously, you start with the fact that the guy has literally nothing in his entire adult life that prepares him for this role, and so that's deeply concerning to start with. In a way, I'm a little bit sorry for the guy. He's barked at the FBI nonsense for years, and now he not only caught the car, he's got to drive the car, and so that is a daunting task for him. I hope he lets the career people do their jobs, but they've already forced out a bunch of good career people and sent a chill through the organization.
That's James Comey.
If he wants to come after me, no problem. I've been living rent-free in that guy's head for years, and that's just a bonus. Do you know how many copycats we've had to investigate as a result of that beachside venture from the former director?
Is that right?
Do you know how many agents I've had to take offline from chasing down child sex predators, fentanyl traffickers, terrorists? Because everywhere across this country, people are popping up on social media and think that a threat to the life of the President of the United States is a joke, and they can do it because he did it. That's what I'm having to deal with every single day. And that's what I'm having to pull my agents and analysts off, because he thought it was funny to go out there and make a political statement.
The 8647, the president said that he believed it was an assassination message. On assassination attempts, I did ask the president on the Middle East trip about this. Is there frustration on your part? Will we get transparency? Will we know the bottom line story?
It's very interesting because we have great people. I think Pam is incredible. I think Cash is incredible. I'm relying on my people to tell me what it is. You know, we have deep-seated craziness in this country, and I'm relying on my people, and so far they're good. But so far and in this case it's Secret Service, they tell me it's fine. But it's a little hard to believe, to be honest with you, okay? It's a little bit hard to believe as I get that throbbing feeling.
You know, it sounds like he wants more about at least the Butler guy that we don't know a lot about. Will we know a lot more about him? Is there more to know?
I don't know that there's more to know, but you're going to know everything we know. And that's the other thing we did. We take assassination attempts, and especially of the President of the United States, extremely seriously. And we don't feel that the American people have been given the information they need on that. And we're digging through the files, and we're getting them a more robust picture of what happened and whether or not there were any connections.
I get all that, and I also understand investigations underway, and there's potential prosecutions for people who are living, but he's dead. And we knew a lot more about a lot of different people than we know about that guy. And you know, there's people that circulate all kinds of stuff, that it was an inside job or there was foreign influence or whatever. Can we say that it's not that?
And that's a great example of people looking for things where things don't exist. In that specific case, since that individual is dead, we are able to say a lot more, unlike the Merchant case in New York, which is ongoing, and whether or not there are any connections. We have definitively given that information over.
Director Patel, stand by if you would. We'll have more with the FBI director from the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia, after this.
All right, so we got about 6 minutes left in this interview. He went to a commercial, gave me a perfect time to come in. So what do you think? I'm pretty sure many of you are like, we've had it, we're done, you need to do something. And then there's also going to be the same amount of people who are probably like, give him more time. You know, he needs more time. It's such a tough job he has to do. I don't know. the people I've spoken to say we're almost out of time. In fact, let me see. Maximus said something pretty interesting. Maximus, who's a law enforcement officer in California, his statement chilled me. Hello, everyone. If we don't suspend habeas, now we are finished. The other side has gone all in. We have been and are prepared for this. Now is the time, and God bless this country. So what Maximus has said, I hear from other people in law enforcement. We'll talk to Ben about that as well when we do the jump over. But at some point, it's almost like watching the sands go out of the hourglass. As much faith and time that you want to give these guys, they're almost out of it. The other side is not playing. The other side is not doing any posturing and doing interviews. They're hitting, and they keep hitting. They're not on television. You don't see these people. These unseen judges that were appointed by the deep state, i.e. Biden, are doing and raising havoc across the country, and they don't care. It's almost like they're saying, hey, Cash, Dan, Pam, here it is on my shoulder, knock it off. I don't think you can. So there's only one way to deal with people who act that way. You have to hit them back. You have to hit them hard. And right now, they're running roughshod. They're doing whatever they want, and they're challenging because they want this. They trust me, they want to see habeas suspended. This is what they've been dreaming about. They want a civil war. And President Trump and Cash and Dan and Pam have been trying to do things the right way, but it's almost at that point where they have to do what's necessary. Not what's nice, not what people are like, can't take the poll, screw the polls, you gotta do it. You have got to pull the Band-Aid off quickly and do what you need to do. A lot of you guys didn't like what Colonel McGregor said this afternoon, but that was one thing I agreed with him. You gotta put the military out there. You gotta do it. There's nothing else. We can't keep. There's no negotiating with a side of people who want to see you destroyed. So let's finish off this interview.
Joining us again, FBI Director Kash Patel. You were recently up on Capitol Hill answering questions.
Mm-hmm. When should we expect this FY25 spend plan for the FBI? Have you seen it? Have you reviewed it? When will we get it?
I'll get you an answer, ma'am. I don't have a timeline on that.
It was due last week by law.
I understand.
And your answer is you just understand you're not going to follow the law?
My answer is that I am following the law, and I'm working with my interagency partners to do this.
It is budget season, and should you have laid out a budget by then to Congress? Because everybody is looking to how much you're going to spend and how much they're going to take from perhaps you to make this all work.
Do I have a budget at the FBI? Sure, of course I do. But the Office of Management Budget at the White House sets the budget for the United States government. And so if they have a budget, which we agree with, they need to roll that out. And they're doing so on their own timeline and working with Congress on that. What I'm telling the American people is that we will be stewards of the taxpayer dollars no matter what budget we are given and focus on these priorities: crushing violent crime, defending the homeland, and fierce organizational accountability. And we'll make it happen. We're not the guys running around on private jets. And somebody maybe in Congress should ask for how many flights on a private jet Director Comey took, or my predecessor Director Wray took, and how many personal trips they took. I know they want to take pot shots at me, but I've been working nonstop on this job, including pretty much every single weekend. And somebody should ask the tens of millions of dollars that were wasted on personal junkets by prior FBI directors before lecturing me on a budget for the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
But you have a good sense from the White House what it looks like, and are you going to be able to operate in that parameter?
I am. We are in a very good position.
When do you want everyone out of the Hoover building? You say you want to move out of that building. Where would the new headquarters be?
I can tell you that we are in the process of moving out. We've just worked out the final logistics to begin that process, and we are actually in line with keeping the American taxpayer dollars on mission, shuttering about 6 different offices the FBI has in the D.C. area, and we're moving to our new location within the D.C. area, and that process has already started.
Which is where? Maryland?
We're staying in Washington, D.C., right next to our partners at the Department of Justice, and we're getting out of the Hoover building. I have cargo nets holding up the cement structures of the exterior of the Hoover building because it catches falling cement and prevents it from hitting someone in the head. I'm not making that up. Why no one in the past decided to address that standard or lack of standard and make that building unsafe is beyond me, but we're addressing it.
So you're going to leave that building and then go to another building next to Homeland Security?
Next to the Department of Justice.
Justice, got it.
Because we have to, this is a great point that I think people overlook. We are a component of the Department of Justice. Moving us an hour and a half outside of town every morning, you know what I mean?
His words. His words from a few months ago, we need to basically tear down the Hoover building and make it into a museum and move everybody across the country and do satellite offices and have them do police work where police work is needed. And he just came on and told you, oh, we're just moving across the street. In Washington, even Brett Baer was here. You're just moving across the street? Not my words. His words.
Deputy do? We walk across the street to brief the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, and the PAYDAG on the most pressing matters of the day. If we leave, how are we going to do that on a daily basis?
What's the thing that keeps you up at night?
If we leave, how are we going to talk to Pam Bondi on a daily basis? I don't know, Zoom? Something like Cisco? I mean, it is 2025. There's a lot of technology. I watch a lot of FBI shows on television. They have field offices all over the country. But did you not know a couple months ago that you couldn't, Pam's going to be in Washington. We can't be in Alabama at the big building in Alabama because then how would I ever talk to Pam Bondi? Not my words. His words. Those were the exact words he said. We're going to shut it down and we're going to move to Alabama. And now they've decided they're going to go across the street.
The CCP, for a whole host of reasons we haven't even talked about, their cyber espionage campaign, what they're doing undersea, what Russia's doing overhead in terms of space, and their cyber intrusion capabilities like Salt Typhoon. They have made wildly successful penetrations into our telecommunications infrastructure. And what they do is they suck up our information, Brett, and this is what keeps me up at night. They're playing the long game. The fentanyl production by the CCP, I firmly believe, is their way of killing tens of thousands of military-aged men and women in the United States of America. They are wiping out generations of Americans that could come here and be an FBI agent.
All right, so let's just talk to the future here. How do you see this? The job, is it different than you thought it was coming in? How do you look at it big picture?
Look, there's two ways I look at it. One, you're talking to a first-generation Indian kid whose parents fled genocide, and their son's now the director of the FBI. Only in America. Literally only in America. So I wanted to inspire people to come to places like this and train with us and serve this country. The other thing that I want people to take away from that is there is no job on God's green earth that prepares you to lead an agency or department. There isn't. Anyone who tells you otherwise is flat out lying or being politically preposterous. And I learn every single day. I learn from the leadership team. I have folks in there around my table every morning who come from so many different walks of life, people I disagree with on a daily basis. And I'm so glad that they're in that room because they are the ones helping me make these decisions. What we won't stand for is people turning around on social media and attacking folks who are doing the job. We will stand up for them. We will also out anyone who violates their oath of office at the FBI, intel analysts, agents, support staff, whatever. We already have. And every time we do, Brett, this is the thing the media doesn't pick up on. We announce it, but we don't take a victory lap. It's all out there. Dozens of people have been dealt with for politicizing the FBI, for weaponizing it. Everything from Hunter Biden's laptop to January 6th to Neil Team 6 and everything else has been dealt with, and we keep going.
Director Patel, we appreciate the time. We're going to take a tour around this place. We thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. That was the interview that he had to go on Brett Baer and do tonight. And I'm trying to like temper my thoughts down because I guess some of it is coming out. Am I disappointed? I don't even know what to think. I really don't know what to think. I mean, do something. And I know there's many people in the chat are like, you got to give him time. I can see the tears. We got to give him more time. More time. You understand? Our backs are against the wall. The midterms, although they happened over a year ago, that's not that far away. People starting at like January and February are going to start campaigning. They're going to ignore Trump. He needs to get things done expeditiously. Ben, talk to me, Ben. Are you there? Ben, what are we doing?
I think I got to talk you off the ledge, man. I think I got to talk you off the ledge. You know what I mean?
Talk me and a whole bunch of other people, because I'd like to know, I don't know if you saw much of that, but what's your opinion on what the heck is going on in the FBI?
Barry, I don't know what to think anymore, man. I don't know what to think because of the discombobulation. I for quite a while, I was very positive about everything that was going on, about everyone that was involved. And now I feel like I am so doubtful about everything right now that I can't convince myself anymore, you know? I just can't convince myself, which to me is if I can't convince myself, then how am I going to convince anybody else?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And I expected more. And I'm sure most of your audience expected more. I expected what we were told. And Dan Bongino built Rumble on the entire premise of he was going to bring fire and brimstone down on everyone. Right. And then he left and he had the tears and I'm leaving. And I'm sure he shorted his stocks. I would have sold every stock I had in Rumble before I left if I was him. And then the whole, we're going to get you, we got you, we're coming for you. And now I'm just like, I can't make excuses for the guy anymore, man. I just can't make excuses for him, you know?
Ben, most everybody, I mean, I would think a lot of people here know who you are, but can you, for people who don't, give them your military background, because I think that also would help as well from your perspective.
Okay. I'm trying to stream this over on mine at the same time. So I'm retired from the United States Navy. Did about, what did I do? I did 21 years in the Navy. And now I work full time as a veteran, like a veteran service officer, helping veterans file VA claims and you know, that kind of stuff. That's what I do, right? And now I do some YouTube and I talk about current events. I talk about politics. I talk about the exact same things that you do. And I try to do it from like a veteran's perspective.
You said, wait 1 second. You said you were trying to go ahead and stream this on your channel?
I don't know if it'll work. It probably won't.
Here's how it will work. What I do here is I have to jump over to Rumble and I stop my stream here, so that way YouTube won't get you in trouble if you decide to pick it up and continue on YouTube. So why don't we hold off? It's gonna again. How much time do you have?
I got plenty of time.
All right. So here's what we're gonna do. I gotta go in and I've got to acknowledge everyone who did super chats. Then what I do is I go ahead and tell everybody to jump over to Rumble, and that way we can continue the conversation there. And in the back, while that's happening, if you wait till we jump over, then YouTube,
and just stream from the Rumble.
No, you can basically stream from the Rumble. You won't get in trouble because YouTube won't recognize it.
Gotcha.
Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud, but
Barry, I put the tinfoil hat on for you tonight because of the Kash Patel debacle.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been robbed. I feel like I've been robbed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that feel the same way.
Yeah.
I really do that. Barry,
right, give me a couple minutes. I'll get this set up.
Sure.
And when you see the golfing happening on the screen, that means we're going to be on Rumble only. So thank you very much for hanging on so we can do this changeover pretty seamlessly.
Problem, bro. No problem at all.
We'll talk. Don't leave. Just when you see the golfing, then you know we're going to be on Rumble, and you can hit the button on your channel, which is a perfect idea for you to do. All right, hold on. Yeah. All right, guys. All right, so you guys know we're going to go ahead and jump over to Rumble. I have got to, obviously, let's go ahead and recognize if there are any super chats over here. I'm loving this. Being able to have Ben go ahead and stream it at the same time on his channel is amazing. Absolutely love it. All right, so I'm going to be doing something here very quickly, and then we'll get Ben over there. Hold on. This is pretty cool. I love this. Love this. All right, so let's cut. Nancy, thank you very much. Buddy Sanders, enjoyed both shows, very informative. Oh, we're not done. Wait till we jump over where we can talk freely. Tammy Ash, I say we the American people should just get rid of all Congress. I concur. Subsir, nothing will happen, just like nothing happened to Crockett after she assaulted the reporter. Nothing ever happens to the guilty Democrats. I can't debate you on that. FL, I received the Trump knife. I'm sorry, I thought it was a scam. They did have endless amounts of advertising. I received very nice things. So you did get the nice things. Yep, nope, it's not a scam. Subsir, it's almost as if these judges are daring POTUS to use the Andrew Jackson rule. He's got to go there. Hello, Neil. The treason is so far flung. They are using all the stops to block our president. Other countries are definitely involved. Go with Andrew Jackson. Exactly. Tilly, this is crazy. It's very crazy. Vielka, Cash is in the high chair is comical. He's turning out to be a storyteller. No substance, all spark, no fire. Seems like you're at the end of your rope there. Conservative Black Nation, hello. Larry Hoover got a pardon. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Tim Allred, they cannot jump the gun on these prosecutions, Barry. Everything must be thoroughly investigated. It is the biggest scandal in American history. They have to have all their ducks in a row. So, Tim, let me ask you a question. It is now May. When do you think they would have all these ducks in a row? Just asking. Maybe you can put up a comment over on Rumble. Let us know that. Penny Quarter, Bondi, Cash, and Bongino are trying to follow the law against a bunch of lawless Democrats and bureaucrats, and they're laughing and threatening MAGA, laughing at Bondi, Cash, and Bongino. Yeah, they're almost saying, knock it off my shoulder. Fazul, Heavenly Father, bless and protect us all, always, no matter what the outcome is. So you guys know the drill here. I'm going to go in, I'm going to play the break, and once I start playing the break, everybody got to meet us over at Rumble. You see the link right there. Rumble, May 28th. You know what today is, May 28th. So, without further ado, get over there. We'll see you in a little, about a minute and a half.